The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Don't adjust your screen. There is nothing wrong. You're about to enter a world where the very concept of time is rendered obsolete by the sheer power of entertainment. You're about to enter the Boggis Hour. Of the Boggis Hour, Greg Boggis.
Welcome to this episode of the Boggis Hour. My guest tonight is a comedian who started in 1988. He's been on MTV, he's been on A&E, and he's been on Comedy Central. He's a comedian, husband, and father. Tonight, my guest, Robbie Printz.
No, I've been flying. Anybody fly? What has happened to air travel? It's horrible. Like the air quality on the plane alone. Right? You get on perfectly healthy. You land with tuberculosis. You're like, oh, I didn't even know that still existed. What? I was flying back from Miami last week. Guy behind me, sick guy. You ever sit near a sick guy on the plane? It's disgusting. Oh, just minding my own business. All of a sudden, oh, where's my Purell? I was dousing him like it was incense. I was like, oh, did that get on you? I'm sorry, rub it in, it dries quick, you'll be all right. Just from the minute you get to the airport, it's a horrible experience because all you do is wait in line, right? And there's no reason for half those lines. The security line, there is no reason for the security line. That is all because of the people who aren't ready. And if you know what I'm talking about, you're okay. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you're part of the problem. Right? They can't tell you enough what you need to do to get through the security checkpoint. Like, people are yelling at you. There are videos playing. Like, no liquids through security, no bottles of water, cups of coffee. What about milk? So glad you're traveling with us today.
So we just watched a clip of my guest, comedian Robbie Printz. Welcome to the Boggis Hour.
Good to be here. Good to see you again.
Good to see you again after a long time.
It has been a long time.
So we're going to dig back into your past and talk about...
Why? Why would we do that?
Because you're on the show.
Do you know how many years of therapy it took to get over that past?
That's why you do stand-up.
Well, how far back we going?
We're going back to probably before you started stand-up comedy.
Whew.
Which is a long time.
All right, now I'm going to have to go and call my therapist again.
Because according to my files, you started in 1988.
I did start in 1988. That's a huge file you have. 2 sentences. My life has come down to two sentences. You did a lot of research for this show.
An enormous amount of research, folks. Enormous amount. So, you started actually doing stand-up in 1988.
October 3rd.
Oh, you actually have the date.
I actually have the date. I still have the ticket stub from the show.
And so, first, where was it?
Nick's Comedy Stop.
Ah, yes. And so back then, Nick's Comedy Stop used to do comedy 7 nights a week, I think.
7 nights a week. And getting an open mic night it took 3 months.
Wow.
So I called in, whatever. Actually, I called, it
3
was
months
even longer
prior to
than that,
October.
because I called at the beginning of the summer.
Wow.
And they were like, okay, October 3rd. I was like, whoa.
And who was the host?
Kevin Knox.
God rest his soul, Kevin Knox.
Kevin Knox.
One of the greats.
Brought me up as a Robbie Price.
That's right, Robbie Price.
He was the best.
1988.
And I went and saw him. I had never been to a comedy club in my life. I went and saw Eddie Murphy live at the Providence Civic Center.
Uh-huh.
Not too long before. That's kind of like what made me decide to just try it.
Seeing Eddie Murphy live.
Yeah. I was like, how awesome is this guy just standing making people laugh? People forget their problems. For an hour and a half, you did not. I've locked out. My sides hurt. I was like, what a great thing to do. What a great thing to do would make people laugh. And I always would make little tapes in my room and stuff, but never in front of people. And So I was like, I should probably go to the show and see what it's like. And I went, and oh my God, Kevin was he was the regular host on Monday night for the open mic night. And he was like as funny to me as Eddie Murphy was when I met Eddie Murphy. He was like, I was like, this guy is hysterical. I can't do this. And then I saw some of the other open micers, and I was like, I can do this.
That's what is it all about? Where you set the bar, right?
I was like, I'm better than the worst guy. I'm nowhere near as funny as Kevin, but I'm better than that worst guy. So I'm going to try it.
Right. I always tell people when they're looking at the dynamics of a show, if it's in a crappy room or something like that, I'm like, set your bar low, and if they don't start throwing stuff at you, nobody threatens you, you're doing all right.
Doing all right. I practiced I wrote 5 minutes and practiced all summer. Like the first show I did was like in my kitchen in front of my brother's friends. That was like I had a.
Oh, you did an actual.
I had a wiffle ball bat.
Nice.
He had like 10 friends over. We sat him in the kitchen. They were like,
"That's
all right,
cool. That's a crowd. That's
and I
doing
did
it."
And they were like, "That was they got some laughs." And it gave me the confidence because I was terrible at talking in front of people. I couldn't talk to save my life. If I got up in front of people, man. I still do. Like if I'm not doing comedy, like if I'm like a best man at a wedding and I have to give a speech, I'm like my leg shakes, my heart beats, I got a cracked voice, I sound like I'm going through puberty. It's a whole. They're like, I thought you did. Don't you talk in front of people? I'm like, yeah, but it's different. I know what I'm doing. I don't want to sit here and say nice things. I want to say mean things.
I want to say rip the place apart.
Right. I don't want to talk. I want to make fun of that guy right there, but I can't because he's your father-in-law.
That's funny. So, Eddie Murphy. Were there any other, like big names that were people that you looked up to, or that you looked up to?
It was funny. It was almost like reverse. Like I was a big fan of Saturday Night Live, so I used to make little, do little skits and sketches in my room, like by myself. I'd make up these sketches, or I'd copy a Saturday Night Live. But it was all Eddie Murphy because at the time Eddie Murphy was the whole show.
The guy.
He was Gumby. Right. He was Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood. He was like the whole thing. And
well, sure. Saturday Night Live.
For my birthday, my brother bought me tickets to go see Eddie Murphy live. It was the Raw tour, and because I had loved the album before that, Delirious, and Goonie Goo Goo.
Right.
And
sure.
So I knew that by heart, and so he brought me to see. That was my birthday present. He brought me to see that, and so after I went to the comedy club and saw Kevin and I saw all these other people do it, and then I kept going in. Then I became more of a fan of like other comics. Like I didn't even really know it was that big of a thing. Like I was in college and my focus was on college at the time, and comedy was a whole new. It was a world. It was a whole new world. I was a sheltered suburbanite going to Bentley College.
What were you going for your degree?
Computer information systems.
Ah, okay.
That's what I was. That was my world.
Right.
And then like I barely went into Boston. And then all of a sudden I found myself in Boston every night.
Watching live stand-up.
And hanging out with people who were doing, I thought my college friends were crazy. I'm hanging out with comedians. Who were completely,
in the 80s.
Completely nuts.
In the 80s.
Yes. I'm like, you can't do that. That's illegal. What are you doing? I was the most naive idiot. I was an idiot.
Oh, that's hysterical.
But it opened up my whole world. It was so eye-opening, and it was the first time in my life that I felt I fit in with a group of people. I was like, I love these people.
Right.
I love hanging out with these people. They make me laugh. Even the crazy ones make me laugh. You know what I mean? You've hung out with so many of them. Like even when they're nuts, even when you're like,
oh yeah,
you couldn't live with them or anything. But hanging out for an hour before the show is like the funnest thing in the world.
And it's funny too because there's people that their stage persona is their off-stage persona.
Yeah, there's not even a difference.
Manic, crazy, that's what they are. They're just presenting themselves.
And then there's other guys who are like, this timid thing, and then it goes up on stage and, and there's an explosion.
Right.
And then there's other guys who are wild who go up on stage and they're more mellow. I mean, it's such a huge, it's a real fun thing to watch.
So were you the class clown or anything like that, or were you much more?
I was
you were
not
much
the
more
class
introverted.
Clown. I was quiet. I was well behaved. I was kept to myself.
Wow.
I'd be funny with my friends. Like if I got to know you and we were friends, like I could let loose in front of my friends, and I would clown around and be funny with them. But in any kind of situation where I was new to it, or I was pretty shy.
Right.
Still
But
am.
that's where you start to get the grains of you can do it, because if you're able to capture your friends, I mean, you know that they're a particular, a known quantity.
I always had a good sense of humor. I just didn't. I wouldn't like walk into a room. I'm not.
Hey,
I'm not
the
life.
wacky guy.
I am not the life of the party.
Right.
Even to this day, I am not the life of anybody's party.
You're a comedian?
I get
Make
that
me
all
laugh.
the time. Like, what? You're a comedian, and I'm just sitting there going, because when you're at it, sometimes you want to talk about other stuff.
Sure.
Like, we always have had great. Whenever we're driving to a gig, we have great conversations about politics
Yeah,
and
but
all
not,
the things
not
going on.
much
in the world.
comedy.
Yeah, we would talk about other things, and that's enjoyable too. You can't
Sure.
you can't always be on.
Right. So 88, you start, and how you move up pretty quickly?
Yeah, it was different back then. I think it was. Like, I don't know how I would do start nowadays, because the stage time is so limited, and like now the open mics you're like playing to
17 other comics.
Whereas back then, like Nick's open mic night, there was an actual audience.
Right, hundreds of people.
Yeah.
Right.
And like and I did it because once I got into it, I really got into it, and I was going all the time. And then once the paid work starts coming, and then 2 years in, I did my first TV spot.
And that was?
MTV half-hour comedy hour, spring break special, Daytona Beach.
So that's 1990.
That was 90.
91 maybe?
I think it was 91.
And how long of a set was it?
7 minutes.
Yep.
It was awesome. It was like the time it's what I thought my career was supposed to be. Like at that moment, I was like, "This is the best thing ever."
What were you actually enjoying it? So you were able to enjoy it?
Like the VIP thing, and you're cutting line for drinks, and they got like a roped off section. I was like, "This is like
this is it."
Yeah, I'm
made it.
on my way.
So that's cool.
That
I mean,
didn't last
that's
long.
impressive though. But that's impressive that early, just a couple of years.
It was
into
great.
business.
And that tape got me like that tape. That's how old that was, right? I got a copy on a VHS tape.
It wasn't beta, at least.
That was the tape that we submitted to the NACA conferences, and then that got me into the
college market
big time, to the point where when I graduated college, I didn't even that was boom. I was making enough money because I was doing so many colleges that I could just focus on comedy.
So when did you realize that was going to be your livelihood instead of something related?
When I graduated college, my parents were like, "So what are you going to do now?" And I said, "I'm going to be a comedian." And my dad goes, "That's the funniest thing you've ever said."
And he wasn't like, that wasn't a punchline.
No. But you know what? They were very supportive.
That's cool.
They used to love coming into Nick's, watching the shows. They used to love watching me do the jokes about them from growing up.
Nice.
My brother was my biggest fan.
And was your brother older brother?
Yeah. And he had a big group of friends. And like I would do some of these like Larry Rapucci gigs down at Red Bones in Somerville, and I didn't realize he was only having me on the show because my brother always brought 15 people. Right? I thought I'm doing good.
Right.
I mean, it stunk when I first started.
But your friends and family
I got
loved
so
you.
much stage time. My brother brought everybody all the time. He was always going to all my shows.
Nice.
My family was very supportive, and then after it took off, it was fun for them to be able to see me grow too. Like my parents, when I was living in New York City, they got to come down and see me do an actual taping of an MTV show, and yeah, those were pretty exciting days.
And what was the MTV show?
That was a thing called Kamikaze.
I remember that.
It was on for the blink of an eye.
Really?
Yeah. They did this weird thing with
Kamikaze.
Yes, it was Comika.
Oh,
Z-I or something like that.
Nice.
It was like Kamikaze. And they did this whole thing where it was like different angles. They were getting fancy with their shots, like you'd be like sideways and black and white, and then it would switch the color.
Nice.
The show didn't last. But
And then how about A&E?
Evening at the Improv was a great experience.
And of course, that was out in L.A.?
That was actually was the Santa Monica Improv, the one that I guess it burned down.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
And of course, the Improv is one of the storied historical comedy.
I
rooms.
flew out there to do an audition. So I fly out there. I'd never been to LA before. stayed at this nice hotel in Santa Monica, and the club was like right across the street. You know, Bud was supposed to be there, I guess.
Bud Friedman.
Yeah.
Bud Friedman.
He was supposed to be there. And so I get into the club, and I'm like, oh, is Bud going to be watching? He's like, he's not going to be watching tonight. He's like, my name's so-and-so, though. I'm going to be watching you. And I was like, oh, great. I got this guy. This guy's going to be watching me.
Shecky Green, not Bud Friedman.
I just saw him check somebody's coat. As it turns out, I got along really well with the guy. We went out drinking. After we had a blast. We were out drinking, talking. I mean, the set went great. The show went great. It was a great show. And then we went out drinking, and like the cab pulls up to the hotel, and I'm getting out, and I'm a little buzzed, a little tipsy, and I'm like, so what do you think? He's like, you got the show, no problem. And I'm like, all right. And then like, I don't know, a month later, I flew out and shot it.
Nice.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, it's when it's good, there's nothing like it.
No.
You know?
No.
It's one of the reasons he keeps drawing me back in. Just even when the business like gets you pissed off, it's still the benefits just so much outweigh the detractions.
It's the business, right? It's the business that's the bad part of it. Right. Like none of us got into comedy going, you know what? I really love the business.
I like to chase down checks.
I want to haggle about $25 for the rest of my life. No, like none of us get in it because we love the business. I don't think.
Right.
There's not that many comedians that are like good with their books.
Right.
You know, I think most guys get into it because of the love of being on the stage and telling the jokes. I mean, that's why I still do it. I don't do it because I enjoy calling the agents. I do it because I enjoy going on stage. And
there's a famous comedian who says, "Once I pay my taxes, you'll never see me again."
Well, he should be done now because isn't Tax Freedom Day like April 24th?
I think it is. It must be close.
Next year it'll be May 15th, and so on.
So, what? Is there any other like?
Want me to write the questions for you? Do you want me to come up with some questions? Wait.
Oh, okay.
All you got written on that paper is 1988. All I have to do is say 1988, and I'm just going to let him go.
I've never had anybody bust my balls like this guy.
What do you got there? I got 1988. I think we're good.
So tell me about being...
1989? Are we on to 1989 now?
I'm going to have to yell cut.
It was a very good year.
I'm going to have to yell cut. So, tell me about how being a father has played into your comedy act.
More material.
And that's the only reason why you had a kid.
Material. You know, it's funny because I've had this kind of really... all right, I'm going to compare my life in a weird way to the movie Overboard. Because there's one line in the movie Overboard where, and I forget who says it. Oh, it's like the butler on Goldie Hawn's boat says to her at the end, you've had the benefit of living two lives. Take advantage of that knowledge that you've gained from you've been rich and you've been poor. Not that I've ever been rich, right? And I'm not poor, but I've had the benefit of living a life with, you know, my ex-wife and I. We never planned on having kids. We lived this kind of more of a carefree life where we didn't have any kids. There's no really responsibility. It was just me and her. She had a job. I had a job. You know, you feel like, you know, the new gadget comes out. You go, I'm gonna go buy that. You know, you go, oh, you know what? I need some clothes. I'm gonna just go buy that. You know, you don't even think about it. It's just stuff that you just do. Hey, let's go out to dinner. A lot more freedom, and then you see that life, and then all of a sudden I'm a dad.
Ooh.
And it's this whole different. It's a whole different world, and it's you know, I can't ever picture my life now not being a dad. You know what I mean? I can't, because it's like definitely a piece that was missing before, because there was always kind of a little bit of an emptiness.
Yep.
It's like something's missing. Like, you know, I never realized how much time I wasted when I didn't have kids. Like, I was like, I got my whole day. I'm going to take a nap.
I'm going to think about making. I'm going to think about making lunch.
Yeah,
you actually think about
You
it.
could wake up at 9, because working comedy, back in the day, it was working 7 nights a week or whatever. You're like, you'd wake up at 9 and go, I'm going to go back for another hour.
Right.
You get up and you get your business done and you do that kind of stuff, but there's still time in the day that I'm going to play a video game for that. Now, I haven't touched a video game, even though the kids have the video games. I haven't played a video game. I can't remember the last time I played a video game, except on my, solitaire on my phone.
Oh, on your phone.
But it's changed my life. It's more fulfilling, but it's also more challenging. There's a lot more bills. There's a lot more responsibility, and there's a lot more stress as far as you get this constant, I have to make sure these people are okay.
Right, which is much more of a responsibility.
Yeah, before I just had to make sure I could
okay.
function in society. Now I'm like, I have to make sure that you guys can function.
And you're doing that as an entertainer, and you do cruise ships?
Yeah, so I'm gone a lot. That's another thing. I've never thought I would have to travel so much.
Right.
I think the recession really hurt the comedy
club.
Yeah,
it did seem to.
I think I remember reading an article. Clubs that went
did not
from 540 to 240.
Oh, no kidding.
Nationwide.
Wow.
It was a pretty big hit. Oh. And then you know how it is with I kind of got lucky 12 years ago. I kind of fell into the cruise ship thing. The woman who used to book all the Royal Caribbean's entertainment saw me in Boston after I had won the festival.
Oh,
a year after I had won the festival, I was doing the spot.
Which year was that?
I won in 2002.
Okay. That was pretty early on in the festival. Was that the second year or third year?
Third year. Russo won it, then Nardizzi, and it was me.
And also giving forth the implied bias that it was leaning towards Italians.
Only half Italian.
Ah, okay.
Half Swedish.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Half Swedish, half Italian.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, so it was leaning towards half Swedes and some Italians.
If they were leaning towards Italians, Santarelli would have won.
Oh, that's true. All right.
Came in second. He called and left me the funniest message. I have that message somewhere still recorded.
Really?
If I can ever find my little recorder device, I still have his message because I saved it because I laughed so hard. He called me the next day. He was like, I just want you to know, how he talks is very, he's like, I just want you to know that I believe there was cheating going on. And it was literally the luck of the draw because we both agree that, I went second and he went first. And if those spots were switched, he probably would have won.
Right.
And I probably would have come in second because he really warmed him up. It was a warm-up guy.
Didn't warm him up.
Really warm him up. But then Frank went up and totally warmed him up. And then I had kind of like the cush sweet spot. So.
Was that somebody just talking
anyway,
about that?
So the next year, while they're tallying up the spot, they would have the winner do a spot to fill the time while they're doing the scores. And the woman from Royal Caribbean was there, and she saw me, and she just came up to me. I was like, hey, would you like to do cruise ships? And at the time, I was like, yeah, I'll try it. Wasn't anything I needed, and I never even thought about it. I just kind of fell into it. And then luckily, because when things got bad, people still go on vacation.
Sure.
People still cruising. So that really filled up my calendar.
Up your book.
And now it's been going really well. So.
And you've done that for a long time, and so you know how to.
Yeah, only kind of the last, since about 2000. What year are we in now? 16? Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, which is outrageous.
Yeah. So it's even more years than that.
So how about
math. I've been doing it.
What's your most nightmarish gig story?
I get that one's easy. That one's
really?
Right there off the top of my head. Right there off the top of my head. What kind of language am I allowed to use here?
You can say whatever you want. We'll fix it in post.
Okay. Well, just to keep the story, I won't even use the language. I'll just say what happened, and you'll get the gist.
The gist.
But I never even have to go. What was that word? What was that? This show was so bad that I just know right off the top of my head. So I'm doing this college, SUNY Farmingdale. It's on Long Island, New York.
Yep.
And it's a theater. Probably holds 300. Not a huge theater. But, a
moderate range.
A public college theater.
Right.
300. But it's a big stage. And so they introduce me. Now the theater is not full. there is 12 kids standing back by an exit door, like huddled in like this little hall by the door to leave. And then there's 20 kids kind of scattered throughout. There's people in the front with their legs like this up on the stage like this. There's probably like 3 or 4 kids like that. And as I'm walking to the microphone, you suck. You beep, 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 beep. They called me like every derogatory word that you could possibly call somebody. Just it was nonstop. And I got to the mic and I was like, hey, whoa, what's going on here? I haven't even started. And like I tried to like, is this something you guys do? And then they just keep going. They're nonstop. Just kids in the back screaming stuff, man. Right? And I go, I haven't even told a joke yet. We're really off to a bad start. And the kid in the front row goes, go ahead, tell a joke. Go ahead. Tell a joke. And so I start to tell the joke. Like, I don't even get to the punchline. He goes, that's not funny. You're not funny at all. You suck. And it just continues like this. And I'm up there for like 10 minutes. And it's just, I'm trying to go back and forth. And then finally I go, you know what? I don't need this. I don't want this. You are the biggest bunch of people that I've ever played for in my life. I am out of here. And I flipped everybody off. And I walked off the stage. And the guy who was like the student activities guy comes up to me, gives me the check. Oh. And he's like, wow, you lasted a lot longer than some of the other guys. Wow. He goes, the last comedian was up there for 2 minutes and he left crying. And I said, well, why didn't you tell me?
That's what I was walking into.
He's like, that's what they do. They come just to see how fast they can get you off stage. Wow. And I went, had you told me that before I went up there, I'd still be up there. I would have been up there for another 45 minutes to an hour. Reveling.
Just to spite them.
Knowing. Yes. Because if I knew that that's what they were trying to do. But,
perfect.
Hey, it's their money.
And to close out the show, we have a special video clip. There was a comedian named Adam Perlman was shooting a documentary about young comics back in the 90s. And he happened to interview you about me. So we're going to go to the clip, and we'll ask you about it after.
What do I think of Greg Boggis? He's a hack. He's a thief. He's so self-centered and egotistical. All he does is talk about himself. I've never seen the guy have a good set. He just goes on and on about himself. Every time he walks into a room, oh, I just got back from so-and-so, and I crushed the room, they love me. You talk to somebody else that was working with him, they're like, fucking Boggis ate it again. He brought the whole show down. Piece of shit. Went over his time, doing Knox's jokes, and Sweeney's jokes, and Gavin's jokes, and he can't even make those funny. That's how bad he is. He's a nightmare. I had to do a road gig with him. It's like a 2-hour drive. He stinks. He doesn't pay the tolls. He won't pay for the gas. When you get there, can I borrow $5? I want to get something to drink. Ugh. How worse could it be? He's horrible. Just not a nice guy. Just not a nice guy at all. I just don't like him. I don't like him. I don't like his act. I don't like him personally. When you shake his hand, when I introduce him and he comes up on stage and his hand's all clammy, slippery and wet and gross. I won't even touch him anymore. It's disgusting. I try to be a professional wherever I can, but he just doesn't make that possible. He's a real bastard. That's all I can say.
If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on The Boggis Hour, email us here at thebogishour@gmail.com.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.